Greetings to all the honorable judges and everyone present here. My name is Faza Husna, and I am here as the first speaker of the opposition team during the motion. The House would criminalize individuals and organizations who do not recycle. Firstly, we must know what recycling is. Recycling is the process of collecting and processing materials that would otherwise be thrown away as trash and turning them into a new products. Recycling goals is to reduce the consumption of fresh materials, save energy, and decrease pollution and landfill waste. Recycle might seem like the most inevitable solution of our waste environment, but however, recycle is not 100% effective to connect the stability of an environment. Not every item can be recycled, and not everyone could maintain the act of recycling itself, which is why it is implausible to criminalize people just because they don't recycle. The opposition maintains that criminalizing non-recycling is a counterproductive and regressive policy that fails to address the root cause of the environmental harm. Instead of solving the crisis, we are creating an issue where crime is determined not by intent of malice, but by systemic convenience. In a legal system, we usually reserve crime as something of a common that demonstrates a clear choice to harm others. However, under this motion, a citizen becomes a criminal simply because they live in a city with poor waste management or because they cannot distinguish between 7 different types of resin. Furthermore, this policy creates a false sense of security. By labeling non-recycling as a crime, the state pretends it has solved the environmental crisis by punishing the end use. The proposition here today comes with a different types of argument. The first one is individuals who do not recycle cause such a great harm to the society and individuals around them. However, as I have stated before, recycling alone is actually not enough because the availability of waste materials for recycling is limited. Even if every single person on earth decided to recycle perfectly, the harm against society would not stop because first, the material that has been recycled multiple times such as plastic or paper would not wear out and then eventually become trash at the end of the day. Second, this means we must keep cutting down trees and drilling for oil to make fresh materials. The harm to the society happens the moment the factory makes the product of the item, not when the person throws it away. Because even if we do not use the material resources, it was still going to harm the environment because the damage has already done the moment this product is produced. Second, companies refuse to recycle, they emit more waste into the environment because big companies and oil companies produce more carbon dioxide into the air because they prioritize profits over caring for the people. And why do we think the reason behind all of those mass production of this company that brings us more carbon dioxide into the air? It all happens because the high of a demand. If a demand of product is high, then the production has to keep up with the demand number in order to maintain the availability due to the public's demand. Secondly, carbon dioxide into the air does not only caused by the big oil companies and etc. It is caused within so many sectors such as healthcare, transport, fuel, or even heating for homes costs. Just imagine what would happen if those companies stop doing all things that they're supposed to do because they want to maintain the care for more old people. The immediate result will be an economic collapse, energy blackouts, and a failure of the global supply that will cause more harm to the people than the emissions themselves. However, the algorithm stated that shareholders of company don't actually care of the environment because they want to maximize the profits. Many shareholders are institutional investors. These investors care about the next 30 years, not 3 months. Institutional investors like pension funds prioritize long-term stability and green rating, aka ESG, because a company that destroys the environment is a liability that invites lawsuits and crashes stock prices. By criminalizing these entities, you don't magically make them care more. You simply destroy the saving of of everyday people and discourage the very investment needed to fund the transition to renewable energy. Moving on to my arguments. Firstly, it is logically and morally inconsistent to criminalize a person just because they can't perform a recycled process if the only reason above all of that is because the government has not provided 100% accessible high-tech facilities to process the waste. The reason why people keep on not recycling is because they can't, even if they have to. When someone actually wants to do the things, they have to make an effort that the current system does not support. In most cases, the barriers aren't just laziness, they are structural. Firstly, a consumer has to spend their time researching which specific resin their local facility actually accepts. Secondly, for many, recycling actually costs more money in service fees than throwing things in a general landfill bin. We are essentially asking people to pay a tax to do the government job to them. Instead of giving punishment to the citizens who can't recycle due to those reasons, the government should provide the supportive system for that. You cannot arrest your way out of a climate crisis caused by industrial design. Secondly, criminalization is ineffective because it creates culture of fear rather than care. If policies to criminalize someone for not recycle is actually gets realizes, people will make and do anything to not get punished. This is because they thought that recycling is a must and they would be in so much trouble if they didn't do it. Recycle is a process to minimize the use of newer materials by processing the old ones and turn them into a newer product. However, in order to make the new products using the old one, we have to divide those just worn out old waste by their categories in order to create a new product according to the right materials needed. To avoid heavy fines, people will throw all the trash into the recycling bin regardless of its type. This leads to a massive contamination which ruins the entire process of good recyclable and making the actual recycling process more expensive and less effective than before. Lastly, criminalizing the consumer of organization ignores the fact that 90% of the environment harm occurs during the manufacturing stage. I'm gonna explain. Firstly, before a product even reaches a stop shelf, most of its environmental damage has already been spent. This includes mining for minerals, drilling for air, or deforestation to get raw materials. Industrial materials processes use massive amounts of water and chemicals, which often leaks toxins from the soil and local water supplies. Secondly, many companies choose multi-layer packaging like snack bags, juice cartons, etc. because it is cheaper and lighter, even though it's nearly impossible to recycle. The consumer then forced to buy it because it's the only option to get sent to the court for not being able to recycle it, even if the fact that a product that was literally designed to be a trash. Lastly, the industrial waste produced by corporations during manufacturing is exponentially higher than household waste. Criminalizing an individual creates a narrative that the planet is dying because you didn't wash a yogurt cup, rather than because factories are dumping megatons of waste into the atmosphere and oceans. So how do we maintain a good environment without even harming anyone? First, shift the legal and financial burden to manufacturers, forcing them to design products that are even easier to recycle. Second, implement a reward for customers who returns battle coins, turning a waste into a valuable resource rather than a legal liability. By any of those reasons, I am proud to oppose.